Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. I got a great one for you today. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Kevin Groth, stopped by the office today prior to the Top Study Club. And if you guys know Kevin, he's had an incredible life in dentistry. He's been part of the dental community, and he's also been a leader here. And he also went through a major transformation of ups and downs. And today on the podcast, he shares how he discovered happiness through a lot of adversity. It is powerful. You guys have to listen to this. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you soon. Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome edition. We are in the house, Best Practices Show with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Kevin Groth. And today we're going to be talking about how I discovered happiness. And I'm going to let you hold on to that thought because we'll reveal it here in a little bit. But welcome back, brother.
It's so good to be here.
Yeah.
2 years since I've been in Milwaukee.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I've learned a lot, but
yeah.
I'm just thrilled to be back, and I'm a different man.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that journey.
Absolutely.
And you're a rock star in the dental community. You've been there for me, for us. During the COVID conference, you shined with some of the best restorative minds. You were like a regular guest, regular host. You've been with us on this journey, even when we started this thing called Inner Circle, which is now To the Top, and you're here. And tomorrow we're going to be in To the Top. But I want people to know who you are. Who's Dr. Kevin Groth? What do you do? Who are you?
I'm a restorative dentist out of Detroit, Michigan. I have a practice there, which has been my dad and uncle, combination that I took over. And I love it all. To me, it's just, I've found a lot of happiness and success with that. But I am nothing without the contribution of dental. To me, I love this community. I love the coaches. I love you. And it's been such an influence to me. And when you talk about that COVID conference, it was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.
And it's such a tumultuous time and so many things, and everything was so chaotic, but yet it kept me going. It kept me grounded. And I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I developed a lot of relationships, a lot of people. And I thank you for that. And I think it's so fun.
What you don't know is I was in this room the day the pandemic started, and there was no furniture in here. And we were wondering how the heck we were going to stay alive. Yeah. So while if you were listening to this podcast and you were part of that conference, it might have seemed like we were kind of calm, but we were freaking out. And what was cool with you, Bill Robbins, Bob Margis, anybody that we called, everyone was like, I'm in. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it became our therapy session, daily, so that we didn't watch the news. We could talk about things that we enjoyed, which were dentistry, So it became the time that we got to know each other too. Sure. A lot of us in dentistry without having to go to work, type of thing, because we couldn't go to work. So
well, that's a testament to you. You're infectiously positive. And I think you're always driving towards better. And you surround yourself with a community of people that also are like-minded like that. And I think that says so much about who this culture is and what it's about. And I am the biggest advocate for dental. And it's just such a blast to be here. And I'm emotional about it because it's just had such an impact on my life. Well,
let's go there. Let's talk about what's happened. And today, I want you to take us through the journey. You talk about happiness. Like, this is a serious deal for dentists. You go through this up and this down, and you don't even have to be a dentist to experience that. Mm-hmm. And at some point in your life, as you're growing a family, growing a business, you start to question a lot of different things. Take us through the journey.
I think I've been pretty open about the fact that the last 2 years, I went through a pretty dark burnout stage, and it led to some depression in all these different ways. But like you said, there's ups and there's downs. What's wrong with the down? Yeah. That's what I'm going to try and hopefully express, that the down isn't bad.
Right.
The down drives you. When you fall, that's where you learn the most. And that's why the last 2 years I felt hard in almost every facet of my life. And I'm proud of that because I can stand here now having gotten out of that. And I am a completely different person than I was 2 years ago when I was here.
Yeah.
I'm humbled. I'm more compassionate. I'm more real and raw and genuine with what I do and how I do things, and far more intimate with every relationship that I have.
Yeah.
And to me, it's such a cool moment to come back and almost like cringy to where I look back on and be like, ooh, okay, I see what you're seeing now that I don't really like the person that I was back then.
Yeah.
But when I was going through that time, all I wanted to do was like take me back to the summer of 2021.
Yeah.
I would do so many things different going forward from there, but now I have no desire to be that person back in 2021.
Yeah.
That's the coolest circle.
Okay.
And I love that.
Unpackage that for us.
Sure.
So like, what does that mean?
I think when everything fell down,
which is what?
Gave me, my practice, my marriage, my parenting, I built a house, our finances, like everything about my life had to be really dissected.
Right.
And it's kind of like the analogy of a forest fire. Those happen sometimes naturally. Right. And it's important because when things burn in a forest, it takes out all the weeds and all the stuff that kind of clutter that forest and allows for new growth to take place. And a forest won't thrive unless there is some burn. Right. And you got to sit in that burn. And I think as dentists, we just are so averse to anything failing. Right. We don't want that crown to fail. We don't want that procedure or that patient relationship or anything. We want to fix it as fast as possible. Yeah. Sometimes you got to sit in that. You got to sit in that for a long time. And for me, my personal expression to you is thank you. Yeah. Because you were there with me multiple times a week sometimes and called me, text me, whatever I needed. You were there and you picked up the phone every single time. Yeah. And there are times when I dreaded having to have that call with you because I was like, great, this guy's going to think I'm freaking crazy. Yeah. Because here's another text message from something that happened in my life. And I just want to share with you because you've helped support me along the way. And you saved me in so many circumstances. And all I needed during that time was like someone just to sit and be with me. Yeah. And you were there and you offered your advice when I asked and you offered this support and gave me the resources that I needed with various connections that you have. And I'm here today in the position I'm in because of you. Well, that's very kind. And I would say that's part of how all this works. I mean, you know this, in accidental, it's 27 years. I quit at least 12 times in my brain. For sure. And I had the same thing that you had. And I had a group of probably 5 to 6 people that I could call regularly. And sometimes it was just a group of 3. And one of them, Dr. Frank Graziano, was like my main lifeline. Same thing for you. Absolutely. And I think the message here is like, you got to have a crew. And you had Zach, also too, Zach Sisler. Yep. Shout out to him. But if you're a dentist listening, like you got to have a crew, a core of somebody going, hey, listen, I'm not in a good place right now. Or I'm questioning a lot of different things. Or I just need somebody to listen to what's going on. And, I know the importance of that. And it's an important thing. It is. I mean, I had you, I had Zach, my wife, I had Bob Margis, and my therapist, Bob. I just had this crew of people that I can always pick up a phone with somebody and they'd be there. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that time because I just love who I am right now. That's cool. And I'm happy and I'm not where I thought I would be, but I think that's also a blessing is that they're not expected to know where we're going to go, right? And I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow or the next day after that. And I think that's a cool thing to realize and the growth that comes from all the struggle and the turmoil that happens. Right. And it's so cool. It's so cool. So if somebody's listening, so I'm just trying to take the perspective of somebody listening here. Okay, Kevin, that sounds great for you, but how'd you get there? Yeah. Because I'm not there, type of a thing. And when you say like how I discovered happiness, let's define that and then the path. So when I first was introduced to you was in Vegas at the AGD meeting. Yep. And you were in this panel discussion with a bunch of practice management people. And you said, ultimately the happiest people I know are the ones that have the simplest lives. Mm-hmm. And that hit me so hard because I had gone through such a crazy time. You're a new grad, you're trying to like pick up all these pieces and do all these things. Right. And I was heavily reflective over like, who am I and what I'm about? And when you said that to me, I was just like, whatever Kirk does and however he does it, I will sign up immediately. And I pretty much did. So I started working with Christina for 2 years from 2017 to 19, and it changed my practice. Yeah. It changed everything. Yeah. So then, I mean, fast forward, 6 years after that, now we're sitting on the phone and you and I are talking weekly.
Right.
And you're saying, we just got to get you back to simplicity.
Right.
Because that's all it's about. Right. And so it's just a full circle thing of we worked hard to simplify my life.
Right.
Because I had gotten so big and so chaos driven that I had to really rein things back and come back to the point of simplicity. And simplicity is not easy to achieve.
Right.
But when you have it, I'm not ever letting go of that.
Right.
So I would like viewers to listen to these 3 things that they can implement and hopefully have a happier, more simplistic life.
Yeah. And I want to go back to, when you heard that from me, now that is not my original thought. And I received it the same way that you did. So I went through a program called Strategic Coach. Mm-hmm. Dan Sullivan, I went through the base program. Then I went through what they have, which is called the 10X program. And I heard him say it probably 10 times, like the happiest people have the most simple lives and complexity is very dangerous. And he would say it over and over and over. You're going to hit a ceiling of complexity. And he said, a lot of you think complexity is fun. It's the enemy, and he said exactly what you said. Simplicity is not easy. You have to fight complexity. And we were just talking about this. Barrett came in. I love the idea of simplicity, but complexity is around every corner. It's in every email. It's in every tech. It's in every app. It is constantly, you never get there and you're like, oh, we're there. Like you have to fight complexity with everything, don't you think?
It's the forbidden fruit.
Right.
Right. And I think you're always thinking like, well, maybe I should have a second office.
Right.
Maybe I should have more doctors. Maybe I should have more team members. Maybe it would make my life so much easier. No, the more complex you get, the harder it becomes.
Right.
Right. And you're just spinning more. And I learned that the hard way.
Right.
Right. So ultimately, I think, let's get into this. So the low hanging fruit is your practice, how you practice dentistry, right? And I've come to learn, especially through Act Dental, that nobody should work more than 200 days a year.
Right, for sure.
So when I started working with Christina, and she said in 2018, she's like, I want you to count how many days a week or how many days a year you have. Mm-hmm. And it was like 231 days. She goes, okay, great. We're going to cut 50.
Right.
50 days? And can't do 50 days off. Like that's crazy to me. Mm-hmm. And I did.
And your practice die?
Well, we made more.
Why? That makes no sense.
I don't get it, but I think ultimately as you keep cutting, the more efficient you become,
right?
As well as you have more energy, and that energy fuels you,
right? And
I used to work 5 days a week, 6 days a week, especially as an associate. There's no way you can possibly sustain that forever,
right?
And the people that do that, I mean, there's some unicorns out there. I know a couple. They're awesome at doing that, and that's their life, and that's how they do it.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
I'm good with 3 to 4 days a week max.
Yeah.
So especially when my associate, she bought her practice, it left me with a 5-day a week schedule. And it was like, well, what are we going to do?
Right.
And you and I sat down and he said, cut the Fridays.
Yeah.
I said, well, I have a lot of patients that come in Fridays.
Right.
I got it, and eventually I did.
Right.
I didn't lose anybody. It's just something that now I'm down to, last year I did 181.
Okay.
And next year I just sat down on my schedule and I cut off 2 more weeks. So I'm down to 174 for this year.
174. You also made a decision in your patient base too that was really important. And you don't have to do this, but you made a really important decision for you. What was it?
To cut Delta?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great.
Right.
Because ultimately if I'm going to cut, I need to be more efficient with what I do.
Right.
So if you're going to write off 30%, you're working, if you're working 3 days a week, one of the days a week that you're working for free.
Right.
Right. And you said that to me and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're down with membership, it's down to like 10%, right off, which is great. I'm happy with that. And that works for me. And that's how I'm going to do things. That some people, it's not going to work for them. But to me, it was hard to do, especially when my life was pretty chaotic, but it was something we just had to rip the Band-Aid off and make decisions and do that.
Right.
So
some of the key cornerstones when you talk about practice.
Let's do some more here. So days. So I would say to somebody, look at your schedule and get down to at least a 200-day year schedule. I emphasize 180 if you can, but just every year, just keep cutting and keep cutting, you'll make more.
Yeah.
But then sometimes people will say, well, what about my team? They're not going to like not working those days. Great. Right. I took all my team and put them on salary.
Yeah.
Per your recommendation. I don't know if that's officially what you would do, but you told me to do that. So with
we have
me,
to be careful, okay. So first of all, Kevin is a dear friend of ours. I know you very well.
You know me very well.
We know your business very well. Now I'm getting older too, so I got to be a little bit more open. That sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. Why did it work for you?
It's simple.
Why?
It's simple because people that work for me want to just know I'm getting paid this much every single week or month or year. Right? There's no, oh my gosh, the doctor took off a day here. No, I'm not going to get paid.
Right.
Or the doctor's sick and I can't go in. No, I'm not going to get paid for that. They shouldn't be punished for that.
Right.
And on top of that, as we keep cutting down days, they get the benefit of the days off too.
Right.
I closed my office today to come here. They're still getting paid. And that's a benefit because now they're saying, wow, like I have more of a relaxed lifestyle. I have more balance too. And he preaches this and now he's living that too.
Yeah.
And if we make more money with taking days off, they should get the benefit of getting paid just as much or more every year too. So it's an easy thing to do. And on top of that, I do my payroll now, as we talked about that too, twice a month.
Okay.
I hated doing the accounting where you have that third week or third payroll every 6 months. And then you're like, geez, my payroll percentage is so much higher now, right? Yeah. So now it's just a monthly thing and I have it on auto pay. I switched to my accountant that goes to Gusto. Yeah, I don't know. And I can just have it just literally run it.
Yeah.
The first or the 15th and the last day of the month, every month. And it's just simple.
Yeah.
Literally just
and again, please don't take this as legitimate business advice for your practice.
It works for me.
It works for you. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. And then what's really fun, because a mentor of mine did this, is I did what you did, and then I went to once a month. Mm-hmm. So now if you're an employee at Act Dental or team member, you get paid once a month at the beginning of the month. Now, as you can imagine, it's very predictable for them. Mm-hmm. They know exactly what they're going to make. It's also 12 payrolls for me. I know exactly what my labor cost is every single month. It's the same number. It's extremely predictable. There's only 12 reports.
That's easy.
So when my accountant says, we need all the reports, it's 12 of them. So again, it doesn't work for everybody, but the whole purpose of this is not payroll. Mm-hmm. It's about thinking about how you can simplify.
What's bogging you down?
Right.
Great. I manage my office. Right. I don't want to sit on a computer doing payroll all day long. Right. Yeah. So it's easy for me to do. Other things with the practice, change your hours.
Okay. So how did you do that? What did you do? What were your hours? Wait, I'm going to go back to one thing. I don't know if you and I have talked about this, because we talk about a lot of things, but I don't know if we covered this, but the ADA recently released the ADA health policy, and they polled dentists to find out how many clinical hours they were working. Do you know how many days on average the solo dentist that owns their own practice works per year, if they work an 8-hour day?
5?
Well, in a year, 225 days.
Okay, so it comes to about 4.5, 5 days. Yeah.
The average solo dentist that owns their own practice.
Because I looked up 231 days, and that's 4.6 days a week.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So go back to the hours.
Jeez.
You had what hours?
We used to work Wednesday nights with my dad.
Till when?
8 o'clock.
PM?
PM. And then you go get home at like 8:45, and then you eat something, and you fall asleep, and then you just get back to work the next day. You feel like you live at the office.
Right.
But I know a lot of people that work like 7 to 7.
Right.
And that's crazy. So my hours, I hate lunches. I hate lunches because you end up working through lunch, or you sit there and you're not doing anything. And it's like rejuvenating, but it's never rejuvenating.
Right.
So for me, I said, we're not doing any lunches and we're going to go straight through. You like the straight 8. I do straight 7s.
Yeah.
By that 7th hour, I'm done.
Yeah.
So for me, I do 7 to 2, 8 to 3.
It's awesome.
It's great. I get out and I can call you on the way home from work.
Yeah.
And it's great. It works out well. I can pick up my kids. We can have 6, 7, 8 hours at home for the rest of the day.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for people listening. My team's never going to go for that. Did your team go for that? Or my patients are never going to go for that?
As soon as I announced that we're going to do the hour change, and I let them I like my team taking ownership of everything. So we kind of came up with these hours ourselves together. And as soon as we determined what our hours, and we've changed it along the way. Mm-hmm. So for the last 7 years, we've always constantly changed our schedule around, but they jump at every single change because it's better for them.
Yeah.
They love that.
Yeah.
It might be early for them, great. But at the same point, let's knock it out and get done with the day.
Right.
Perfect.
Right.
So I'm a huge fan of that. And now you're starting to formulate how you want to practice, right? Mm-hmm. And that also includes the procedures that you do.
Right. Now, let me go back. Can I ask you one more thing about the hours? Because this is the stuff that matters to me, is like you have 2 kids, ages.
5 and 1.5.
Okay. So how does the work day fit with where your family is at right now?
Yeah. I mean, so this is one of those things that once I started taking on my practice by my own, when my associate left, I used to have Monday and Wednesday mornings to be with the kids before they went to school. And I miss that, right? So ultimately, that's why we start our mornings on 8:00 days for Mondays, because I get to have time with the kids, at least to say hello.
Right.
And then Wednesdays, I don't start my personal day until 9:00.
Until 9:00.
Yeah. And it works for our practice. I show up, we kind of get started. They start hygiene at 8, and I kind of come in at like 8:40 to do some hygiene exams. And then I start my clinical stuff at 9.
Okay.
But it gives me a little bit extra, like 20, 30 minutes with the kids to help get them ready. My wife takes care of the kids in the morning. They drop them off at school, and she drops them off at school, and then I pick them up 3 of the 4 days.
Okay. So Kevin, you're really messing with my head. So number one, you're saying reduced number of days, things got better. Now you're really messing with my head. You're going to change the format of the day, and the practice is somehow going to get better.
It's the easiest thing you could do for yourself.
It makes no sense.
I couldn't even emphasize enough to anybody listening to do it tomorrow.
Right.
And you won't lose patience. And if you do lose patience, they don't value you for who you are.
Right.
Because I had a patient conversation last week. She's a mom. Her sons are like 13 and 15. She goes, wouldn't you just like extend your hours for a late night or work a Saturday or something like that every now and then? I said, no. Mm-hmm. Because I don't have to be everyone's dentist, and I'm good with that.
That's great.
I don't want to work for those hours. I don't want to work for the people that need me during those days.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Go back to that. That's a hard concept. Like, that's not an easy one to say, I don't need to be everyone's dentist.
I don't need to be anyone's anything.
But you go through this evolution where you think you have to please everybody, and you got to have every patient. What was the turning point where you finally go, I don't need to be everyone's dentist?
The turmoil of my life that happened the last 2 years.
And that was it. You're like,
I realized I'm done being a people pleaser.
Okay, go to that place.
Because I adapted myself to please some other person.
Right.
And I changed who I was and what I needed.
Okay, so
for their benefit.
This is a leading question because I'm going to probably say the same thing you're going to say. I'm going to put the fire together with that decision. There are some times it's good to just say, I'm cooked. I'm done. Those are powerful days when you're like, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm at a bad place. I'm done. I'm done. We're not doing this anymore. They're going to come in the hours I work. They're going to start following the rules. And is that what you're talking about when you sit in the fire and you have to you got to make these decisions, because out of adversity comes sometimes some good decisions.
I think it was like October of 2022 when I broke down. I got COVID because I was so run down, and of course I got COVID. I got sick because your body is not allowing yourself to heal or be healthy.
Right.
And I'm sitting there just totally spent. And my wife said, something has to change, man.
Yeah.
You are not the person that I knew. And we need to make this better for you. So I sat there and wrote down every single thing in my life.
Were you just paper thin at that time?
So done.
Yeah.
I was the most fragile I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I wrote down every aspect of my life, personally, professionally, you name it. Mm-hmm. And then I started finding solutions to those problems. It wasn't me writing down things just for the sake of just doing it, but there was something so cathartic of writing down problems.
Right.
And then eventually finding solutions. And I found that the solutions actually are very... you don't need a 1-to-1 ratio for problem to solution. A lot of times the other solutions tagged up with a lot of the problems that were happening.
Right. So when you fix a big problem, sometimes the smaller ones go away.
Yeah. It's perfect. So that's a good thing for anybody listening to say, just write it all down and find solutions for this. I'm coming up with ideas for people listening right now, but I think that says something to like the practice design of who you are and what you're about. And the other thing about your practice, you got to just name the procedures that you do.
Right.
I don't like doing endo. I don't like doing extractions. I don't like doing removable.
Right.
I don't like doing kids. And my schedule is so busy already. Right. So I sit there and do all these things that I actually enjoy doing, as opposed to doing the things that I get upset about or worried that don't work, and it's unpredictable for me.
Right.
And that's cool, because now you're starting to design a vision for who you are for your practice.
Yeah.
And that becomes now the clarity for which you carry that forward with your team and what you do on a daily basis.
Okay, go back to that too, because a lot of these decisions you make, you have to communicate to the people you work with. How did you do that? Did some of them think, this is crazy? What do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started working with ACT, you had me do a vision, or Christine had me do a vision, and I presented this to my team, and half of them said, this is nuts. It will never work. That half they're not with me anymore. But the half that was on the side with me saying, I love this, sign me up, they're the ones that still are my corner here. And they've been the most important people on my side every single day that they motivated me to keep going the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They showed up for me. So I had to show up for them.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like I am so big into team culture, and it all goes down to the core value emphasis that you put on me. And I said, Kirk, that's total bullshit.
Yeah.
I remember that phone call.
Oh,
and you're like, you need to get back to your core values. I'm like, I'm so tired of that. Like that little cliche that you throw out there, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Because the people that don't have the same core values as you are not going to work for your practice. And they're not bad people. There's nothing wrong with them, but it's just simply, it's not working for you. Now, the best example I can come up with, and I love the fact that I can sit here and talk about this, is that we have two amazing football teams in Michigan right now. The University of Michigan, who won the national championship, and the Lions, who are 3 points away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Those two teams have the best culture
for sure
in their sport.
Yeah.
They don't have the most talent.
Right.
They don't have all the 5 stars or the number 1 draft picks.
Right.
They passed on a lot of talented people, or they got kicked out because they didn't fit the culture identity of who that program was.
Right.
The Lions coach came in right away and said, this is who I am, and this is who we're going to be. We're tough. We have grit. We're a all-in type of thing. And those guys would die for that man.
Yeah.
They literally, truly would. And now Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan coach, he went through a cool evolution for himself.
Right.
He came in and he's like, I'm going to do some rap videos. I'm going to do all these things to try and recruit all these 5-star people. He's not that type of guy. So it was working, but it wasn't working. And he was losing to Ohio State. It was just like this whole thing that he had to kind of fall. And he fell hard during 2020. We went 2-4. But then all of a sudden he rose up and said, you know what? I love football. I'm obsessed with football. And I love anybody who is obsessed with football, who wants to just be thick in the trenches, and we're just going to just pound people, and we're going to beat them that way. And I'm only going to take on people that are that type of person. Yeah. And lo and behold, there we were. And we won the national championship because of that. And it's so cool to see that. And that's who my team is. I have a bunch of people that embody the same ideals that we have as a core system or core purpose.
I'm going to go back to the Michigan. I think what's more impressive than the national championship is beating Ohio State 3 years in a row.
You can say that again.
No, I live here in Wisconsin. I'm a Wisconsin. But to watch the biggest rivalry in the history of probably college sports ever, that is like a game that I'm not going to miss.
And they went 19 years winning twice.
Yeah.
Winning twice. So something had to change, and they changed the entire culture of that program.
Right.
And it's so cool. And it started from the beginning of just finding the right people. Yeah. And then building and building and building and building around that. And for me, how I know it's the right fit is what is my gut saying about that person? Right. And if it's not right, if it doesn't feel great, eventually it weeds itself out naturally, whatever it may be. But if I love my team, I love my people on my team, and I can say that wholeheartedly, and I will do anything for every single one of those 7 people that work for me. Yeah. Because I'm in this moment of just appreciation and just bliss. And I will never, ever, ever get away from that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're beating that drum, because I'm beating that drum forever.
Awesome.
And even with you falling on deaf ears at some points, and even in our relationship, like you're like, I got this. And I think even one time you said, I think core values is just in somebody. I'm like, no, you got to put the flag in the ground and go, we're going in this direction. Now, for the listeners, a core value for me, I'm just going to tell you, is a behavior. It's just, you spend 30% of the breaths that you take on this planet at a place called work. So you got to go in and go, oh, man, I love that person. I love that person. They don't have to be the most talented people. They don't have to be the most brilliant. They don't have to be, but they do have to be one thing. They got to be all in on what you believe. And we got to agree on how we behave. Oh, yeah. Here, like thought process, all that kind of stuff. And it lends itself to a collective output that you can never get your arms around. Don't you think?
Totally. You know what's another cool thing is when you do have a culture like that, you can be hard on people because they know that you have the total love and appreciation for them.
100%.
Right? And that's the Lions coach. That guy loves his players, and his players love him, but you better believe he must be so hard on them at practice.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can't have that success without being hard on them, but those guys will listen and do anything for him. Yeah. And just as if my team will do anything for me, and I'll do anything for them if they come to me and say, you need to be better about this. Yeah. It's an open invite. because we love and appreciate each other. And when you have that type of culture and identity, you can be critical.
Yeah.
Because they know it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my marriage.
Yeah.
My wife tells me all the time how many things I need to be better about. But I'm a better man now, because of all the things I've done wrong. And she calls me out on that because I know it's coming from a good place. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm in that position there.
Well, and the practice will evolve and you'll consistently simplify.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the second component?
That was it, the team culture.
The team culture.
Now the third is the hardest, and it's yourself.
Right.
So you have to improve yourself in order to be happy.
Okay.
And I think the biggest thing for me was that I was in such a rough place myself.
Right.
And when you're in a rough place, you're going to have these reactions or these abilities to just not handle things the way you necessarily should.
Right.
Now, people that are parents out there know this position, because sometimes the kid will do something that's not really that bad, but you just like blow your top off.
Right.
Not that like you're screaming and yelling, but like your reaction to that is just like, well, they didn't really do anything bad. You just,
right.
Why did I react like that? Because you weren't in a good place to take on the kid in their response to whatever they're doing.
Right.
Now, the other end is true too. You're in a good place and something happens. You might be able to take that on and handle that emotionally. That's in a much better place. And as a parent, nothing's better than showing your kid how to respond in a good manner, right? Because now you're modeling behavior that they should be able to do and learn for the rest of their life.
Right.
It's no different in your practice. You might have some crazy patients. If you're in a bad place, that's not a good thing to be able to handle those crazy patients. But you and I know what happened last week. I called.
Yeah.
I took that on beautifully because I'm in a good place, and I had nothing but comfort and support for that patient. And it's a cool full circle moment again, because to me, it's like I am an emotionally adapted person now that I can actually handle this stuff, and and it's cool. It's really cool.
But you do have to work at it every day on how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
I could bring in 30 quotes on this, but like Covey used to say, the magic of the world is between stimulus and response, managing yourself. Because there's things that are going to be stimulus that you go, okay, I'm just going to react to this because this is freaking me out. And then as you start to age and mature, you coach yourself, don't you? I coach myself all the time. Like, keep your cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay cool. Stay cool. You know what I mean?
That's everything.
And then let me take a breath and think about this. Or I don't even need to respond.
Or get yourself to a good place before that happens, and then you can actually get to it. But that way you can respond in a natural way.
Yeah. Have you ever done this? Typed a text and not send it?
Who hasn't?
Or typed an email and go, I'm not going to send this.
Right.
I'm just not, nope, I'm going to send.
But you shouldn't even be at the point of picking up the phone. Right? I mean, that's ultimately what it is. And I've taken care of myself in a much better way now than what I was 2 years ago. And Kirk, to me, I had so much stress running through my blood, and I could feel the cortisol just pumping through. And I swear my wife can attest to this. I had so many gray hairs.
Yeah. You're too young to have gray hairs.
I mean, but they're gone.
How old are you?
I'm 37.
You're 37 years old. You should not have a gray hair.
But I had so many. You weren't around for seeing this.
I don't. Mine just fell out. So,
but they were popping up like crazy. My hair was turning gray. And it was because of how stressed I was. And ultimately, once you start pulling that away, my gray hairs disappeared. I have a couple, but...
Go back to the simplicity for self. What other things did you learn?
So you got to start going and taking care of yourself, right? So you got to get better at taking care of yourself from a sleep aspect.
Right.
Your diet, fitness,
right,
and how you're managing your stress, right? And so all those things are components that do compound on each other. If you don't sleep well,
right,
you're not going to have the energy to work out.
Right.
If you're not working out, you're going to be more stressed. If you're stressed, you're not going to eat well.
Right.
If you're not going to do all those things, you're not going to sleep well, right? So it's that cycle. But if you actually start changing little things, you can reverse that cycle and be better.
Yeah.
So if you sleep a little bit more, then you have the energy to work out. You have the energy to work out. You're going to start eating better, eat better. You're not going to have as much stress. You're not going to stress. You're going to sleep better, right? So all those things do tie into each other. And I learned a lot of little things about those, and I'm not going to, I can do a whole podcast on those things. Right. And I'm still improving. I still need to be better about some things. And it's ultimately where I need to be, little tweaks, but I think little tweaks go a long way in terms of having a compounding effect on that.
Yeah. I want you to talk about that too, because you're speaking my jam now. And we talk about this all the time. In any point in life, you just don't have to pivot and go, we're changing everything. You might, But really, when it comes down to simplicity and like creating a better life, he's just like, we're going to stay the course and tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak. It's all about progress, because human beings, I think we can deal with progress. It gives the world meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
But dentists aren't good with that. They want perfection.
Oh, they want perfection.
I want to label everything, and I want to come up with a plan, and I want to stick to this plan. And then all of a sudden now life happens, and it's like, now the plan is totally effed.
Right.
And now I have to like start over again. You don't have to start over. Just go back to where you were and keep kind of moving along that journey.
Right.
Because if you get 80% there, you're so much better off than 0 every single time.
Yeah.
And that 80% compounds to 80%. It gets eventually to a better place, and you're in the mid 90s to high 90s eventually if you keep trying that.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge proponent of all those little tweaks, but can I give you more?
Yeah, please. I want it all. Like to give it all.
I say no to everything now.
Really? Wait. Was that hard for you?
I'm a yes person by nature. But I think it's ultimately, I realize the value of saying no to everything.
So what does that mean? How do you say no?
My wife and I have this thing, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah.
You know, sorry for cursing, but
you can the network.
It's just something like
us.
if let's say you want to invite me to dinner, that's a hell yeah.
Yeah.
And I will do anything to go to that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you feel it.
Right.
But then if there's just like, I probably should. I probably should. Well, then when the event comes or the thing comes, you're never going to want to really go to that. And it becomes an obligatory thing that just clogs your calendar.
Right.
And those obligations end up being the things that are the roadblock in your schedule.
Right.
And it opens up time for you now, if you say no to those things, to agree to things, or you just enjoy time at home with your family.
Right.
And my kids are young enough that they don't have a lot of commitments. So one of my favorite joys is having a Friday, Saturday, Sunday open that we literally don't do much at all.
Yeah.
And we do walks, and we go to the park, and we go to like restaurants or whatever we want to do. It's easy for them to we just kind of let life be.
Totally.
And it's so much better than having this on a calendar.
Yeah, my kids are little. Sarah and I we used to love lightning on a Saturday morning, and my kids would have their shin guards on and ready. They're like, "Why are you guys so happy?" I go, "Because there's lightning."
Exactly.
Which means everything is canceled, and we're going to go to IHOP, and they go IHOP, you know. But you're right. Like, no isn't bad. It creates space.
It's the best.
Yeah,
it is the best, and I'm a huge proponent of that.
Yeah. Give us another thought.
I think you gotta really look deep in your self-conscious.
What's that mean? Like,
so it's just how you feel.
Yeah.
So it's those moments when you're just kind of alone,
and
then all of a sudden, like something pops up.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll be doing dishes, and I'll start thinking about things and thinking. If I've done wrong, or if I'm not feeling well about a certain relationship, or I feel guilty, and then something happened, and I've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately those things pop up.
Yeah.
And those will haunt you, and you cannot get those out of your brain. And it's just one of those things you're just like, I can't stop thinking about this. And you're just like, I'll push it away. I'll will myself to not think about that anymore. And does it work? No. Right?
I'm asking you for help here. Like,
I mean, it's just something that you just, it's torturous.
Yeah. So what do? You
got to make it right.
So what does that mean?
I think we all know what right and wrong is.
Yeah.
And how to make it right.
Right.
Or at least you know in your heart that you've done everything to make it right.
Right.
And I can sleep well knowing that I did what I can to clear that up.
Right.
And if I can't clear that up with that person, maybe they shouldn't be in your life.
Right. So it's making a phone call, making a decision, like right then and there.
Right. And it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make amends sometimes.
Right.
It's so hard to say, I'm sorry. It's so hard to say, I messed up.
Right.
And ask for forgiveness or forgive yourself. And ultimately that allows you to now sit there and do the dishes and be empty.
Right.
It's so cool because all of a sudden now you're sitting there just like,
right.
Maybe I should like listen to a podcast or something. I don't know. I'm kind of bored because I'm not ruminating those things of guilt and regret and all these different ways that just torture you.
Right. Because the rumination is the thing that kills me. You just constantly think about it and it becomes head trash and it just becomes trashier. Yeah. And speak to this, once you make the decision, make the phone call, it's never as bad as you thought.
Never.
But
it's so hard before.
It's like, I'm just going to call this patient. They're going to freak out. It's going to be horrible. And never is.
Never as bad as you think it will be.
Or a team
or it maybe
member.
is, and that's okay.
That's okay
at least
too.
You know you did what you could.
And when it gets bad, you're like, okay, this is
You're
really
like,
bad, and I'm going to learn.
And then the other thing about it,
What?
is once you like get that off that list, then the next thing pops up.
Which is what?
In that smaller thing that you just avoided, when you know now becomes the next thing, and then you're like, oh gosh, okay, now I'm thinking about this thing, and then it's like, okay, I'll now address that.
Right.
And then you start becoming good about addressing those things that pop up, and then things get a lot better because now I have an empty brain now with that stuff, which is so cool. I feel light.
Well, that's good.
I feel very, very, very light with that stuff, and that weighs you down. I know a lot of people listening to this, they can resonate with that idea.
Yeah. Because the opposite of that is what?
Regret.
Yeah. Well, when your brain is full of stuff.
Oh, you're just so stressed and so run down, and just like you can't have a clear thought on anything because you're just constantly ruminating in those torturous ways.
I was having a beer with my uncle. You'll love this. He was explaining to me, he goes, you don't understand this yet. I'm a lot older than you. It's not that I forget things. The problem is when you have so many stories in your head, it just occupies so much space and you think about way too many things. And his point was yours, like limit all the carousels up there as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. And if you live long enough, you're going to upset some people.
Right.
We're not perfect.
Right.
We're not robots, and we're going to make some people upset.
Right.
And if they're okay with, I mean, they're probably not thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them.
Right.
And that's what it's going to be, right? And if it is something, then they'll reach out to you, or you reach out to them and you make amends with it and you move forward.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to have that happen, or if you're not going to do that, then let it go.
Yeah.
Letting it go is a huge portion of that too.
Right. Now, I think, I know what you're going to say. Like, you certainly don't want anybody listening to this go, man, I've made it. I'm there. You're at this point in your career. What's the next chapter?
2 years ago, I felt that way.
Right.
And here's another like psychological thing that we talk about is I lived for people praising. So my whole life I would seek out other people, yourself included, who really, really talked me up.
Right.
You know, the COVID conference was great for me, but it also was very, very bad for me.
In what
because
way?
I had a lot of these people that were high up in this industry.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you're a star.
Giving you a compliment.
You're just great.
Yeah.
Oh, great job. And I fueled on that.
Right.
And that was just like, that was my high.
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
You know, and I felt so well of myself. And I had just this confidence.
Right.
This invincibility in that I could do anything. And every decision I made after that was based on that overconfident nature.
Right.
I made it. And I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to get better.
Right.
And ultimately it collapsed.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
I failed hard.
Right.
And I did everything I could to go and climb myself out of that. And I failed even more from that.
Right.
And eventually I'm now in this place where it's just full circle that I'm in a better place. And I can honestly say I loved it.
Yeah. How do you use that learning going forward? Keeping yourself in check for the next 10, 20, 30 years? Because you're young, you're a young guy.
I don't really have any desire to have anyone compliment me in any capacity because I know it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I know it's something that but I don't also have the same reaction anymore to that.
Right.
It's almost like I need a little bit more spunk,
right.
a little bit more mojo for that, you know? So people, I mean, go ahead, message me and say how great I am because I'm joking that one. But to me, it's something I think I've learned a lot from that lesson.
Right.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wish I would have done,
what?
I wish I would have journaled everything from this moment.
So do you journal now?
Yeah.
You do.
And we never know what we're going through.
Right.
And we never know the journey we're going to go into. Right. So ultimately it would have been so cool to look back on all these moments and been like, whoa, I forgot about those little things.
Right.
But now I'm journaling. I'm trying every night. I'm not a very good journaler, but I'm just writing things down.
And what are you writing? Just like
anything. What happened that day, what happened that week, the big moments, the little moments, the reflections of life,
right.
All those things are, and what little prompts that might come up from like an Instagram post that was random. Like, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Right.
Maybe I'll put that in my journal tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know, like stupid stuff like that. But to me, it's something I could look back on later on and be like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was doing it then, but I really didn't. Or man, that little thing that I didn't think of anything of was a huge influential piece for me 5 years later. So that's I really wish I journaled.
Yeah. I don't journal and I should. And I do know the value of it. It's tremendous. We all have to figure out our mode during the course of the day, type of a thing. What else would you add?
I think ultimately it's always how you think about things.
Right.
And I'll go back to the Michigan football again, is that we had lost Ohio State so many times and it was so close every single time, and it was always this negative expectation that it's almost like when that thing happens, we're going to lose.
Right.
And it was this negative expectation and negative thoughts are so terrible for you. And you gave me that book, As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah.
And I didn't even follow along with that for a long time. But ultimately there came a point where I was just like, I'm done thinking negatively. I am done expecting negative things to happen to me because negative things are coming my way because I'm thinking about when the next thing happens.
Yeah.
You cannot control when that thing happens. I still have negative things come to me all the time. And you hear about every single one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't take them as negative or as insulting or as woe is me or victimized nature. It's just going to be there to teach me a lesson.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting great things to come from those lessons.
Right.
And that's what life's about.
Right.
So when our offensive guard, All-American NFL draft pick this year against Ohio State, shattered his leg.
Yeah.
Literally, they didn't even show it on TV because it was so gruesome.
Yeah.
Former Michigan teams would have been like, we're done. We're screwed. We can't do this. We can't run the ball. We can't block anymore.
Right.
What happened? The very next play, they scored a touchdown.
Yeah. That was so cool.
Because they expected greatness.
Right.
No matter what. And that's how life should be.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be adversities that are going to come into your way, and it was unplanned and unexpected. Right? But you become resilient through positive thinking.
For sure.
And that's the most important thing, is that just the positivity fuels that resilience.
Right.
Ted Lasso show is just all about that.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
Ted Lasso has so many different things about the chaos of everything, and there's always something coming in, but he is undoubtedly positive towards every adversity. And it fuels that resiliency in every capacity, and it's just how life should be.
Right.
And dentists don't want that because it's hard.
Right.
And you're imperfect.
Right.
And you fail. And you fail and fail and fail and fail and fail. But eventually you realize, when looking back, all those little missteps led to something better. And your future got brighter because of it. So stop looking at it as a negative thing. Me coming out here and saying, I failed so many times the last 2 years, and I'm proud of that. I love it.
Right.
And I can sit here in a full evolution of a being coming back to Milwaukee and saying, I love the person I am today because of all the things I did wrong.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And I'm sitting with the man who was by my side every single minute of that time.
Wow.
I mean, over the phone, but
yeah, it's
great so grateful.
Stuff, man. I'm proud of you, man. And I know what's really cool about you is you're going to be committed to taking care of the next generation. As the great Bill Robbins constantly reminds me, we got to leave the campfire in better condition. We found it. I think that's the cool part about the dentistry, this great profession. I came into it where people cared. So that's all I knew. I mean, they go, come to lunch with me. You're coming with me. Where am I going? You're going to a course. I don't have any money. You're staying with me. Cool. So, I got dinner. I'm like, this is so great. Read this book. I don't read. You're going to read this one, and I would be stressed. I would call those people. And I think that's the important thing that lends itself to this great profession. The thinking piece of it, we don't come up with those ideas on our own. It's collective. It's the people that we meet. I know Zach's been a big part of keeping your, and he challenges you all the time. So it's pretty cool stuff. So I think if you're listening to this and you say, well, my life isn't that great, or, it's a real thing out there. I think you got to start somewhere. You got to take a step. You got to get around the right person. You got to find a core group of people that are like, don't think that way. Why are you thinking that way? That's stupid, And I think it's a key piece. I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks.
Any last thoughts you have?
I say, like what we talked about last week. You should never judge anybody or yourself in your lowest moments.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about how you pick yourself up and how you learn from those moments. And I think it's a huge component of who we are as people, is just the failure.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see it all the time with celebrities and athletes. They do something crazy, but you don't know what someone's going through. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And yet, we just assume because of a social media presence or we know somebody that they have it all. They're making it, or I'm jealous because I don't have that.
Right.
But you have no idea what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's all facade.
Yeah.
And I think we just all need to embrace the fact that I messed up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to grow and watch me grow and cheer me on.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people that are in that corner, because nothing is more fun for being someone on the sideline watching someone evolve into a better human.
Hell yes. It's the greatest thing ever.
And then turn it around and help somebody else out.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's a cool part, is just being able to coach and support or do whatever you can for somebody because, hey, I've been in your shoes.
Right.
I get it.
And again, you're speaking to something that I believe in wholeheartedly. I think we talk about leadership. Somebody said this to me a long time ago. I'm going to beat the drum on this one. You're not really a leader until you create other leaders that create other leaders. Now you've done something extremely meaningful. And I know you're going to do that. And if you're listening here, I don't care if you're a school coach, a dental student. I mean, some of the people that I've even seen along other dentistries are like, they're committed to the next generation. That's when you can look at a body of work or a life, go, that was worth it, man. That was so cool. I helped you do that, and then you helped that person, and I think that's part of our calling. So it's good stuff, man.
Circle of life.
Amen. Dude, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so excited for this weekend.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, this is truly a joy.
It's such a joy on so many levels. So I appreciate you, brother. Only the beginning of great stuff.
Right back at you.
Awesome. Well, cool. We'll stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening to Andy's pointing to which way. Right, that one. That's Andy. He's our video producer. He's the best. So thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show podcast, whether you're watching it or listening to it. We really appreciate you guys. This profession is an amazing profession. And if you're struggling, you just got to find the right group of people, the right thinking, and little by little, you can fight complexity, make it more and more simple all the time so that you can enjoy where you are in the process. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you really enjoyed it, do us a favor, hit the share button, share with your friends, and keep sending us suggestions for things you guys want to see. Until we see you guys next time, keep watching or keep listening to the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great day.